Good morning. You're watching Much Ado About Something, and I'm Donna, and we're in the kitchen this morning. And I'm part of the Every Bit Counts challenge today, and this is day number 13. I have lots of end-of-the-year cucumbers here, and what I'm going to do with these this morning is cut all these up and make relish. I know a lot of people are making relish out of their end-of-year cucumbers, and that's probably a common thing, but it's got to be done. I don't want to waste these cucumbers, and that's the best thing that I know to do with these end-of-the-year cucumbers. I've got to peel off all these brown spots and clean these things up. I've got 2 bowls here. I've got one for my ends and for the peelings and brown spots that I'm cutting off, and then I've got one for the cucumbers that I'm going to have to process, the clean ones, and the ones I'm going to make the relish out of. Now, if you're going to can or make anything out of fruit or vegetables that are out of your garden, you know, they have to be pretty good condition. You have to cut off all the brown spots. You can't can anything that's starting to decay or deteriorate. So that's our first step. I've washed these. I've got these cucumbers washed and rinsed. I guess washing them would be your first stage. And the second stage is I'm going to go ahead and peel these because I've got this, the little spots on them, you know. They're the end of the year cucumbers, and they're not the freshest that you would get out of the garden. You know, when the beginning of the season starts, everybody wants to eat the cucumbers because they're fresh. And then by the end of the season, you know, you've ate a lot of cucumbers, so you don't have as many people, you know, eating as many. But it's good to preserve and make every bit count. I could just toss these in the compost pile or do something with them, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make a relish and can it up, and it'll be good on hot dogs or over soup beans, pinto beans, or anything that you just need a little kick of relish to. We like pickles and relish here. I didn't put up any pickles this year because I want to eat all the pickles that I have before I put up any more. So I'm going to find something different to do with these. Now, you definitely can leave your peelings on when you make relish, and they add to it. But because these are the end of the year and they've, you know, just got some little brown spots, that's what I'm peeling off. Like this one. This wouldn't be a good eating cucumber as far as making a cucumber salad or anything with it. It's just kind of at the end there. But it'll be a great cucumber to add to relish. Sometimes when you pick the yellow cucumbers, you can tell that they have a bitter taste to them because, you know, they're past their prime and how that you would just eat a fresh, raw cucumber. But then when you pickle them, it still makes a great cucumber relish. The vinegar will take away a lot of that bitterness and the spices, and, you know, you'll never know that they were aged cucumbers. That's probably where that originated, I would think. People were like, oh, we don't want to throw all these out. Let's figure out something to do with them. So I'm going to get all these cleaned up, and then we'll get them chopped up, and we'll go from there. Okay, I'm working my way through these cucumbers here. I'm getting rid of anything that's not desirable, any kind of brown spot, or anything that just wouldn't be good in relish. Any kind of beginning of rot or any kind of blossom ends, most of those things usually don't do well in canning. They'll cause your food to spoil. There'll be an entry for bacteria, undesirable bacteria. So you want to just cut off as much of anything that's undesirable as you can. And then we'll worry about cutting all these up here so that they'll fit in a food processor here in a minute. But now we're just working through cleaning these up. Just cutting off anything that wouldn't be desirable to be canned. Sometimes when you trim one up, it doesn't look like there's much left of it. But that's the good thing about relish. You're making something good out of the little bits and pieces that would normally be tossed out. And in the end, it's worth it. These little bits of end-of-year cucumbers right here will end up making a delicious relish that we can add and then spice up and add a little pizzazz to our dishes during the winter. All right, I've got them peeled up. Now I'm going to throw them in here and I'm going to wash these. Throw them in here in this colander. Make sure they're good and rinsed. Make sure we've got these things good and clean. And this will be the second time we've washed these. Washing them, sometimes you'll see whether or not you miss a spot and you go back make sure they're all good and cleaned up. Now we've got these washed and rinsed right here. We're going to leave these sitting here so that they can drain a little bit before we start chopping them up for our relish. I've got all the scraps here. I'm going to put these in the compost this morning. I'll feed the chickens later, but these are going to go straight out to the compost. Now we could certainly cut all of this up by hand. We could cut all of our cucumbers up by hand, but we're not going to be doing that today because that would take us a long time. And we've got other things we've got to move on to today. As you can see, this would be a lot to cut up. But what I am going to do is cut them up so that they'll fit into the food processor. I've got my food processor out here. I'm going to go ahead and get that set up. I'm probably just going to leave the chopping blade in. You could shred it that way if you would like that kind of relish. You can make it any shape that you want to make it. But I think I'm just going to shred it like this. I've used this thing enough, you'd think I would know how to set it up, but every year I have to redo it. There we go. All right, got that thing set up, and I'll just Start shredding all of this cucumbers up. I gotta be careful here. I don't want them to be mush. Just the right size of relish. I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of these up. Get them processed. And move on to the next step. Now here's something that I do. When I get these cucumbers chopped, and I clean out the food processor, you know, to go for the next batch, I put them in a strainer because there's a lot of liquid that comes off of these cucumbers when you chop them like this. There's a lot of moisture, and you don't necessarily want that in your relish. So I put it through a colander, and I just kind of work it through, and then you can find any that's big that didn't chop up and put them back in your food processor so they can re-chop. But I go ahead and drain some of the liquid off of this relish. And you can see there's an incredible amount of liquid in there. Now I use my hands. You can certainly use a spatula or whatever you need to clear these cucumbers out of here, out of this food processor, and put them into your strainer. But I just use my hands. Now I have a mess going on here. Here's all the liquid I've drained out of the cucumbers that we chopped. And there are a few more things that goes this dill relish besides cucumbers. If you want to screenshot this dill relish recipe, now this recipe was handed down from my family, and I had to try to rewrite it in a way that other people could understand it. So if you'd like to screenshot it, then feel free to do that. And adjust it however you would like to adjust it. This calls for some bell peppers, but you can use any kind of peppers that you like. If you like it spicy, then feel free to add whatever kind of peppers. I'm going to add these 3 bell peppers right here, and I'm going to add these 2 onions. I'm going to chop these up in the chopper, and I'm going to add them. These are just some cucumbers I had in the refrigerator, and I thought I would just throw them in this relish, and a few little carrots. And then I'm going to go ahead and chop these onions in the food processor. And I'm going to clean the seeds out and take the stem off of these bell peppers. And also put them in this food processor. Maddie, are you okay? You want to go home? Why? What are you watching? Are you watching Strawberry? Okay. Okay, I've added my 2 onions right here. And these are the cucumbers. And I'm going to go ahead and add them to my pot. My grandkids are here, so I'm having to stop and go check on them a lot. Madeline is watching one movie and she wanted to watch a different movie on TV, so I had to stop and go do that. But we're adding our ingredients into our pot. That was the onions, and here are the bell peppers, and of course you can use whatever mixture of pepper that you like. If you want to use banana peppers, which I do use banana peppers sometimes because I love their flavor. Or you can spice it up and use something hot, like cayennes or chilies, if that's what you would rather have as a hot relish. But we're keeping it basic today so that people that don't prefer a hot relish can enjoy it too. And you can add the heat to whatever you want to add to make this better. All right, we've got our cucumbers, we've got our onions and our bell peppers in here. We are going to have to add some spices. I'm going to start out with garlic. And we're used to using like 4 cloves of garlic, but if you don't have that, today I'm using minced garlic. And I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons, heaping tablespoons, which may be more than 4 cloves. But that's good because, you know, I love garlic. And it really brings out good flavor in this relish. So I put 2 heaping tablespoons of garlic, minced garlic, in with our relish mixture. Now I'm going to gather the spices. Okay, I've gathered up my spices, and I'm going to go ahead and cut these ingredients. I'm going to go ahead and cut them. This recipe calls for a quarter of a cup of salt. And it calls specifically for non-iodinized salt. So this is Canon salt. You can use kosher salt. You know, whatever salt that you have that doesn't have iodine in it. So. Okay, it's going to call for it calls for a half a teaspoon of turmeric. I will put a whole teaspoon of turmeric in it because I love turmeric. I love the benefits of it, and I add it whenever I can. Okay, it calls for 1/3 of a cup of sugar. I use brown sugar. I like the flavor of the brown sugar, but you can use white sugar or whatever you would like. It calls for a tablespoon of dill, and of course I have the dill that I grew in my garden. So I'm going to use about 1 big large head of dill. I grew this in my garden last year. Take me just a minute. I'm just going to cut it right up in here. And I just used 1 large head, and I thought that would equal to a tablespoon. Calls for 2 teaspoons of mustard seed. I love mustard seed. And 2 cups of white vinegar, or any vinegar. You can use apple cider if you prefer the flavor of apple cider vinegar as opposed to white vinegar, then you can certainly add apple cider. So we've got our 2 cups of apple cider vinegar here. We're going to add it to our mixture. Alrighty, we've got all of our ingredients in our pot here. We're going to bring this up to a boil and boil it for at least 10 minutes. The vinegar should be enough liquid in here. I'm not adding any other kind of water or anything else like that to it. I'm just going to stir this relish down and cook it for 10 minutes. I see I got a big cucumber in there. I'll have to take that out and chop that up. Now while our relish is boiling, I'll show you the behind the scenes. This is what I had to pull out and what I needed to can this relish this morning. But because I'm filming, I didn't stop and clean up in between every step. So this is the mess that I have to clean up. And I'm going to work on that a little bit while this relish is coming to a boil. I've got the relish on, and I'm going to turn it up and get it to a boil, and then wash the jars and get ready for canning it. Okay, we have our dill relish right here, and it's boiled for 10 minutes or more. And we'll go ahead and put it in the jars, leaving at least a 1/2 inch of headspace. Now here we go. This is what we had. 6 pints and 1 quart, and then this little bit left here that we'll be able to enjoy and taste it here to add with our dinner. Now I'm going to go ahead and wipe these jars and put the lids on. Now those end of year cucumbers, they added up to be quite a bit of relish. If I had thrown them away, I would have missed out on this good relish that we'll be enjoying this year. And we love relish. We love to add any kind of pickles or relish to our meals. Plus it'll be good if I want to add to chicken salad, potato salad, tuna salad, any kind of salad like that in the future. That'll be an excellent relish to add to all those dishes, and it'll add to what I have. Making sure I got my rims good and clean. I've got my Fresh Tech water bath counter over there, and I'll be processing these pints for 10 minutes and this quart for 20 minutes. I'll just finger tighten these. And that's day 13 of the Every Bit Counts challenge. And it's me using up the In the Garden cucumbers to make relish, to make dill relish. Thank you for joining me today. And like always, until next time.